on here. And as Elijah accurately pointed out, every video starts with me throwing my head over. I did that now purposely. Okay, so you have these in front of you. I tried to give you both constructive comments as well as comments of what you did well. It's hard when you only have a 30-point scale. You know, where would I put something? I wouldn't worry too much about the nitpicky. I wrote the time that you went for, with the exception of Levi, for whatever reason, I didn't put your end time down, your start time down. And then the slides, I mean, I look at them just to remind myself of what was going on. But
I do like how it's 1.2.3 points at the actual score at the end is not.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was my bad. I stole the chart from someone else, and they wrote the points, and they couldn't change the points without remaking the table. And I said, well, we all know what's going on here. Okay, so for these, if you want to give these to me at the end of class, next week, whatever, don't worry about the money part yet. I'll collect at the very end when I got to send stuff in, or when you get stuff out. But again, like, you could, if you're thinking like, I want to just get through this as cheap as possible. Honestly, the rope thing is nice, but the stole is a little bit baller. The metal is really baller. But if you are thinking, I'm not going to go much further than my undergraduate degree, maybe, or like maybe I'd get a master's, but a long, long time away. You wouldn't want to be an accountant with only a single plaque on your wall with your single degree. If you buy this like membership plaque, it looks really fancy with the thing behind it. It's all in Latin and stuff. I don't know, like, if you're trying to get the pizzazz of like making your desk look fancy or your wall look fancy, throw in some Latin in there, and it does look pretty nice. And again, I do have a few, actually, if you want to see what the plaque looks like, I actually have a few in my office too. One person one year did order the key charm. I don't know. She seemed like a key charm kind of person. So, okay. So I'm hoping today we're gonna go back into the paper money stuff. I'm hoping that you have downloaded it yourself already, but because I'm using because I don't have the cable for it, I'm using the work computer here, so you will actually get to see everyone's at the same time. Okay, so hopefully you've downloaded it, but if you're not and you're doing it right now, or if you haven't because you don't have it on your computer, you didn't bring your computer, at least you'll be watching me do it. You'll want to do this because your second and last presentation is involves you probably needing to do this. Okay, while we're waiting for the projector, here we go. Okay, so you would start off with going to the TD Ameritrade site. Again, we're doing this because the platform is free for 60 days for all of you who don't have the $500 for it. So you can download it for free, and it gets you used to seeing what a trading platform looks like, a free version of a trading platform. So I already have my account. So if this were my computer, my life would be a little bit easier because then I wanted to keep downloading this each time onto this computer, right? So you would, the thing we're using specifically that you're using is called paper money, unless you come up with the $500 to do this. When you pay the 500, and again, you keep the $500 is like in your investment account. Once you have that investment account set up, you're all set. I don't know. I've thought about giving them the $500, but honestly, I have better uses for my $500 in this. Okay, so I already set up this account. So I just typed in paper money into Google search without looking up what the site is. It looks like it's just papermoney.thinkorswim.com. Thinkorswim is the platform. So you'd go on this site and you would obviously do register because you're doing it for the first time. You don't need me to walk you through this. So I'm going to say I do because I do. I gotta go to my. Nice move. Okay, so then once I have my account, right, then it gives me all the ways that I could download it. Then I would, you don't need me to walk through this. I'm, my grandmother. Okay. While I'm waiting for this, in case you haven't signed up for it yet, or you're thinking about signing up for it, Levi, as a needer of a WI class, would want to be signing up for Econ 396 this day, this time. It's a WI class. The way that class works, I show up, blank syllabus, first day, we pick 12 topics, we cover one topic a week. You would write you'd have 2 take-home exams, and you'd write 2 short reflection papers that are going to be about 3 paragraphs each. And maybe you'll have to make a group presentation, maybe not. And so that would be a WI, meets this day, this time. Tuesday nights would be now the new Bloomberg class. So I had to make, I don't know how are any of you like earthly close to Sharon Lee, the finance faculty member? Dude, everything's a turf battle here. So I didn't get the day or time I wanted. So Tuesday nights, this time is going to be the class. It's going to be called International Trade and Finance. Don't let the name push you away. It's econ class though, and the reason why I picked that class is because it's already cross-listed for econ, BUSA, and finance. So if you're a BUSA major, business administration, if you're a finance major or econ, well, dude, if you look at the econ listings, there's very few upper-level classes ever. Even in BUSA, there's few in-person upper-level classes. Tuesday nights, you could learn all about what Bloomberg is and what Bloomberg does, with a little bit of a discussion about currencies. Why does Shedden keep talking about Bloomberg? In case you have not been listening and pulling the Levi. I'm kidding, dude. But he was listening, so he did that to me. The reason why we're going to spend these remaining weeks doing things is that, again, this is what's used in the real world. It is a trading platform similar to what you would see here. These are terminals that are, again, the cost is about $2,000 a month. We have a grant at the university for what'd you call yourself? A lab manager. Cody's going to be managing the lab, and he's going to be my whip him into shape. But here's the cool thing is that basically they'll be installed by the month of February. And if you start to learn this platform, your skills that you use to learn how to use this platform will be useful for learning this platform. Honestly, Thinkorswim, like day traders and stuff use that. There's nothing wrong with day traders, but you wouldn't see that in the business world. No one uses Thinkorswim to make like fuel hedges or anything like that. And also what differentiates it too, and this is an important difference, with Thinkorswim, you can actually do trading in the platform. This, you don't do trading in this platform. You'd have to use another platform or trade, right? Because this is used by finance professionals who aren't day trading. They just want the information to be able to know what to trade and how to trade it. So that's Tuesday nights. Econ BUSA Finance 461. And while I'm waiting for it to download, I don't know, let me just sell myself a little bit more if you'll let me. Why not? Because I got to fill the class, dude. So, Michelle, what's going on with you? Anything fun? Oh, yeah. How's that? I've heard a lot of. Your what is?
Because you get it for 1 year free out with Verizon, unlimited.
Are you trying to watch a princess movie that we should all
it's
know
up.
about?
Yay.
Hmm? Yeah, the class is up. So if you wanted to take this class, it's called International Trade and Finance, but it's also a BUSA class. It's also a finance class. In this class, 5 to 7:40, all we will do is learn how to use Bloomberg and do a little bit of trade and finance. The prereq should be waived if it was all done correctly. And then this one is on Thursday evenings. If you don't want to learn about Bloomberg, but you want an easy WI like a Levi would, then 5 to 7:15. I don't know, Levi, why you're being my scapegoat here, but so okay. Let's do Thinker. Let's go back to Thinkorswim. If you want, when are you graduating? So 1 year from now.
After spring.
Yeah, so fall 2020. Yeah. If you want to, when you get to the graduation point, and you want to get like ropes and the thing and be all bedazzled out, if you want to join the Honor Society in Economics, by taking this class, that's like the one of the few things I can give to people. Okay. So just to update everyone, you would go to papermoney.thinkorswim.com. Then it will probably detect how you should be installing it, which I have done. I am now installing it. You'll have use for 60 days unless you give them the $500, or unless you create a burner email account every 60 days and do this whole process all over again, which is what I've been doing. I like Thinkorswim, but we'll learn later today why it's not necessarily the coolest thing to do. Sure, whatever. Come on, lab manager, tell me what I should do. Are you good with? I should have asked you. Are you good with computers? Oh.
I built my own. I know a little.
Oh, you built your own. Okay, I'll take that. Okay, sure. Okay. What do you do with it that you after you built it? Did you do something legitimate or illegitimate?
Sometimes off the shelf computers just don't buy it for games.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Okay, sure. But it sounds like you're a fast learner. I hope you are, because that's why you're doing the job. Yeah, I hope so more than you actually. Okay, so now I'm downloading it. Sure. It's doing all the stuff. So again, I'm just walking you through a little bit more about what this thing looks like. My expectation would be, it runs on all platforms. So whether you brought your computer now, you'd be installing it now. If you didn't, you'd be installing it later. Sorry, Lindsay, I don't think it works on Chrome.
I have a TD Ameritrade account.
So you should get it free with TD Ameritrade. Then it would just be in your live training tab. That was my problem too. Yeah, that was my problem too. So yeah, while I'm waiting for this, did you buy anything that we should know about?
These stuff.
Yes.
The one I've had forever that I'm really impressed with is
CarMax?
$46 steady like the last 2 years at 133 a share. It's not going anywhere. I should probably sell it. But
I heard a rumor. I did hear a rumor that Penske was thinking of buying CarMax. I don't know if that's still an active rumor. Yeah, I don't know. That's you're in a really risky low margin space. I'm not sure I'd be too.
I'm not. This is just like $3,000 that I play around with.
Okay, so I'm waiting for this. Yeah, it says this all the time. So I've noticed that this is the most popular thing it does is it keeps saying installing updates, installing updates, installing updates. When are you graduating? Next year, okay. So if you want to bling out graduation. This fall graduation is the first graduation I'm going to. First ceremony. I've been required to go to fall one and spring one for the past. This is now my 5th year. The past 5 years, I've never gone to one because I thought they wouldn't know that I wasn't there. It turns out they do know I wasn't there. Yeah, they've gotten to be a little bit dictatorial now. Now I got some pretty nasty emails about making me go. Dude, this is why people around this university have time on their hands. They got time to dictate a long email to me telling me to show up on that Saturday. I mean,
why do you need to show up?
Exactly, Cody. This is why you and I are working together. Exactly. Why do I need to show up now? Especially in the past few years, because Nick is actually one of my first students that actually I had from the very beginning to the end. Most of the others, I'm like, yeah, Cody, we kind of, we know each other enough that I'll show up at yours, but I'm only now getting to classes where I've known them long enough. I mean, Chris and Levi, I had you both back, and we had 131 together. How'd you take 130 again? Did you take it at Manoa?
Manoa with a guy named John Lynn.
Oh, I know him, yeah. Isn't he like a diving kind of person? Doesn't he dive or something? Or swim?
No.
Or surf?
He has some interesting stories, especially about Burning Man.
Yeah.
Oh, you told me about this, yeah.
Yeah, he used Burning Man as an example to teach us about barter economies and how we had to develop money because of that.
Yeah.
It was pretty nuts. And
It makes sense.
He has some very interesting. This is why I thought economists are very interesting.
They are.
My first impression was that guy.
Was the
Was that
Burning
guy,
Man.
yeah.
Yeah.
Literally every economist I met, except for this one guy named Michael Roberts. Don't like him. He's like a drone. Other than that, everyone was very interesting.
Yeah. Oh, you mean like your Friday session or whatever? Your grad student? Didn't you have a grad student too on Fridays or no?
Oh no.
No. But yeah, a lot. You took the really big section though, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm teaching in the spring at Manoa. Okay, waiting for updates. Still waiting. I guess I'll start talking while I'm waiting for it to do its updates.
Push the wrong button, now it's installing updates.
Well, you've got the Michelle phenomenon of Disney Plus. What are you gonna watch first?
It's not even.
What are you gonna watch for your friend?
Oh.
I just want to see this.
So that would be kind of cool. But I heard that you don't get the animated series. I heard that it's still on Netflix or whatever, which I'm sure you've got a subscription, but. Is there something you want to watch or you don't know?
I have no idea what's on
Okay.
there. Levi really wants to get it too.
I thought about getting it. But my wife will just keep watching all those princess movies, and my level of knowledge too of Disney movies, as most of you know, is pretty limited.
Oh. So I told him your little movie hints and he got them all.
Wow.
See, exactly. Exactly. Well,
Oh, other than Lion King, he didn't get that one.
okay, but again, it's been that came out 20 some years ago, and all I remember is that the guy became the leader. His dad died, and he was a cat, exactly, because I remember it was a cat. And
You got your 3 midgets.
yeah, the midgets, yeah. Yeah, so what more do you need? Okay, so what's the ticker for CarMax? Okay, so the reason why I'm showing you this right now, so again, part of what I want to do in these remaining sessions is I want to prepare you for the last big project that you need to do. But also, again, just like last week, I want to kind of walk you through again a little bit about how, in my eyes, I look at something, this isn't like the first time I've ever seen the ticker and stock, but for someone who doesn't really watch it that regularly, like what do I look at first bound? So actually my focus usually is on the stuff that's not as sexy as the stuff on the top. My focus is usually a little bit lower here. So mine is a little bit more fundamental analysis than technical analysis, but I use the fundamental analysis first and then coincide it with the technical analysis the time when I do things. Again, reminder, fundamental analysis would be looking at PE ratios, looking at the cash, looking at the financial statement, looking for the competitors, looking for expansion plans, looking for sentiment, and combining that with trend analysis. Because again, the limit of trend analysis is you don't have a sense of like how the psychological sentiment is changing, right? Which I can get from doing the fundamental analysis. What's the limit of the fundamental analysis? Well, it's typically the case that trends do repeat themselves. So, right, so if I need to know, okay, now I know that CarMax, let's say I look at this and I know that CarMax is a good stock. I don't just like go out there and buy it right away because I don't know, or I want to get a good sense of like, is it more likely than not, given all the past habits, is it more likely to go up tomorrow or down tomorrow, right? And again, I could be wrong, but if I believe in the power of technical analysis, I'll get it right more often than I get it wrong. Okay, so let's look at what I would, so here's what I did. So when your screen popped up, it looked like this. So you can see here, I've clicked the tab at the top called Fundamentals, which again, I'm doing this bit of a fundamental analysis. Fundamentals, right here. So I then typed in the ticker symbol here. If I didn't know it, let's say I didn't have Lindsay at my disposal here, I would just start typing it in, and it should sometimes, yeah, there we go. So see, I just started typing in CarMax, and it found it for me. Looking up a ticker is not that difficult. You could even type in the company usually into Google, just as your Google search. And usually the Wikipedia, most of the companies will have a Wikipedia entry, and you'll get the ticker on that right-hand side, you know, where you get that kind of like gray box or whatever. Okay. So now with CarMax, I then scroll down, and now I'm looking at an annual basis, things like earnings per share, dividends per share, book value per share, cash flow per share. Those are incredibly important things for me. That's what I care deeply about, because those four things, those top four things, well, actually the five things, because also free cash flow is also important. Those top five things for share value for me are the most important. If any of those five for me look at all troubling, I won't even look at the stock anymore. I really don't even care what's going on there. So let's talk about each of these. You can kind of see that there's an equation behind each of these, and most, if not all of you, have taken some sort of even introductory finance class. We just don't have time to do it, but we will do it next fall in financial economics. We'll talk about these a little bit more. But let's just start with earnings per share. So basically, when the company issues all of its shares, it then has, the company as a whole also has its earnings, right? What is it, what is the firm generating here in terms of money coming in? So you divide your earnings by your shares issued. And what we can see here in terms of earnings per share, EPS, sometimes shortened as, that in terms of my earnings per share here, I have $5.21 in earnings per share. Okay, so that's giving me a good sense now here. It's not a high growth business here. Just to put it in comparison here, I should almost open up two of these here, but earnings per share for something like this. Now, just because it's negative doesn't mean that's not like the bad sign here. What I usually get a little bit more scared about is the magnitude of the number rather than the sign of the number. I'm actually scared either on the upper end or on the lower end of too large of a magnitude. Because too large of a magnitude, I generally think that it's a pop, not that it's fun. Right? Yes, there are the Amazons in the world where the large earnings per share was long-term and sustainable, but that's not often the case. Usually it's the case for earnings per share that it will peak at one point or plummet at one point and then settle, right? I don't want to be buying it at the peak or at the bottom, right? I like to settle here, right? Again, it does mean, unfortunately for me, it means I do miss the Netflixes, I do miss the Amazons, maybe I'm missing the Uber, maybe I did miss the Facebook, but what I tell myself is that, right, as any kind of investor for most of us who have 401ks or anything like that, I still have a holdings in mutual funds that probably are invested in anyway, right? So it's not like, what this basically means for me is that I'm pretty light on owning tech as like a individual stock purchase, but I still know that I'm having it covered in these mutual funds or whatever or even just spider funds that have, that cover the entire market. So, if you don't want to just buy the NASDAQ ETF and just cover all of the tech space, if you really want to have it. The reason why I say that is because for me, personally, I think it's too hard to pick the tech winners and losers at this point still. It's like, how do you pick the best cryptocurrency? Ethereum or Bitcoin? Right? I'm sure someone could tell me why, but I think there's also a reason why against it. And generally speaking, I don't know enough about the space, and I'm unwilling to invest the time to learn more about it. I'd rather do other things with my time. So I'm more concerned with magnitude than I am about the sign. So if I were to look at this here in terms of earnings per share even for Uber, well, clearly it's losing money. The losses are getting larger. Now we're starting to get a little bit more concerned here. And in fact, I don't own this primarily for that case, because what that would seem to signal for you, which is the case for Uber, if it's declining more and more and more, that means that they're growing more dramatically in their expenses than they are in their revenue. Which means that, right, and we do know that for anyone that's an Uber driver would know, is that they're giving huge subsidies for drivers. There's lots of drivers out there, and they're all fighting for the same small set of customers with Lyft and with everyone else. Let's go back to CarMax here. KMX. Scroll down, dividends per share. Okay. CarMax doesn't pay a dividend. It doesn't bother me. If it's zero, that doesn't bother me. What worries me more if the number is positive and high than anything else. There are very, 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 very few examples of a dependable high dividend paying stock out there. There's very, very few examples. The only example we really have in the market today would be AT&T. And this track record goes all the way back to like the 1920s or 1930s, which again, this is why it's the typical widow and orphan stock, because the dividend is reliable. But let me show you an unreliably high dividend, something I used to own a while ago. Would be here. E&I, again, I think I've talked about this a little bit. Look at all these countries here: Angola, Congo, Nigeria, Kazakhstan, Venezuela, Ghana, Mozambique. Most oil companies in the world don't want to be doing business in those countries. Because to do business in those countries, you have to bribe, you have to pay a lot of money, to do business in them. The Italian oil company Eni, they don't give a fuck. They'll just bribe it, right? So if you want to get in business with, some pretty slimy people, and you want to be invested in the oil company that does business with slimy people, like I did at one time. And the reason why I got out of it wasn't because I had a moral conscience and also decided not. I got out of it because of the reason here that this dividend is unsustainable given what's all going on here. So look at the dividend here that's going on here. But that kind of dividend for a commodity like oil, it's going to become increasingly difficult to continue to pay out that dividend if oil prices stumble even a little bit, because that's how all their money's coming in. And especially in this case, what ultimately made me decide to get out of this stock was, on a slightly deeper analysis, it turns out that the Italian government owns about 50% of the company, and they rely on dividends to supplement their budget on a national level, which means that the Italian government, which sits on the board of directors of this company, would never want to say, let's cut the dividend for the sake of the company, because then they'd be hurting the government, right? That needs the money itself. So my thought was that the board of directors is no longer independently looking out for the company. Now they're just looking out for the government, which also owns a huge chunk of the company. And then I just thought, well, if I'm going to do business with that kind of company, I ended up selling this, and I ended up buying the Norwegian oil company that owns most of that. And the gains aren't as strong, but it's a little bit easier to sleep at night. Let's go back to CarMax.
This computer system is not working.
What's not working for you? What's it doing?
I had a TD Ameritrade account and it won't let me log in. So I made a whole new account.
Mhm.
Right? And
Are you on the live trading side, or are you on the paper money side?
paper money?
Is it the yellowish thing?
So like,
Yeah.
and it's saying that I don't have
Are you using the new one you just created?
that was my old one, and see now if I do my new one I
Yeah.
just created,
Yeah.
right?
Maybe on your email, do you have to activate your thing and say,
I just created it.
uh,
And then I checked my email and it says thank you for opening your account.
Elijah, did you have the same problem? Yes?
No.
Levi didn't even set his Levi style. Lab manager, do you have any ideas? Did you get yours to work?
Maybe because I'm trying to do it on
Here,
my
why don't
iPad.
you log in as me? I don't know. I think we can log in twice, can we?
Check.
I mean, maybe because I'm trying to do it on my iPad, but it's like they already have an app for it. So I don't see why it wouldn't.
You must have little fingers. Okay. Where do you see this keyboard? Yeah, dude, something. Oh, wait, it says logging. There we go. So it should work on mine. Okay. So if I go back to CarMax here, now I'm looking at book value. So the reason why I care about book value is, what if the end of the world comes and someone's got to buy this company? What is it worth? Or if I want to make short-term profits, is it attractively valued that someone might swoop in and buy the company out directly? That's when I make most of mine. I'm not here trying to hustle here and trying to. I'd have to be wearing a suit and saying, buy my stock trading platform. But I'm just telling you based on experience. Like, when I look at that third statistic of book value per share, I'm looking for something that's attractive in terms of book value. Like, seems really cheap for what the business, how great the business is, right? Because that's how I find a good deal. A good deal to me would be seeing that if I thought CarMax was undervalued, say it's undervalued means that the book value is lower than what I think the future growth prospects are for this company. And this is obviously per share. So what that's saying here is that for a company that's selling for or the bid ask 96.60 versus 100, that the book value per share is about 18 and some change. You know, it's a little bit pricey right now. I don't think a lot of people are going to be swooping in here and buying this company out because the book value is significantly different from the other values. It's hard to find good takeover targets. Sometimes I've just been lucky. Sometimes I bought it thinking there'd be a takeover. There wasn't. I got out of it, and then the thing was made right after it. So you know, Tiffany's. That was my Tiffany story. Oh God! But I thought 2 years ago they were going to get bought out. It took 2 years for Louis Vuitton to finally do the thing, like I talked about last week. Long ago on it. Not even like yeah.
Okay, so all these EPS, dividend per share, and book value per share, like, are these all relative numbers within the company?
Depending on the industry.
Oh, industry.
Yeah, on the industry. Yeah, and I'll show you how to look at that too.
So you have to look at the base.
Well, yeah, but you'd also want to have so if I were to look at this, just to kind of address your question a little bit here. So if I were to go,
It's $30. Let's say someone has EPS $30, right? And that's super big for one company, but would that be super small for another company?
It would be, depending on, yeah, no, it would be. Sorry. Oh, jeez. Now you can set up all the side stuff on your own. Again, I don't know if it's what it is for me, but I like usually having CNBC on the side just for myself. With the Bloomberg terminals, you would have Bloomberg on inside. Again, I don't use this all the time, so sorry. I'm like looking at this here a little bit more than I would. To get to Levi's question, yeah, there's a way that you could do this. You could look at things by industry. And I thought it was under Analyze, but I'm not seeing it there. Let's see. Oh, wait, here we go. Now, Levi, to get a little bit to your question here, I could start to customize this chart. And so now we can look at the entire consumer discretionary industry sector. And I could just obviously export this out to Excel or Google Sheets. And I could start to get an idea of like, what is the industry norm for certain statistics. So I could get a good sense. I'm a little bit more old school. I typically look at a big thick book in my office that tells me kind of what numbers I should be expecting. And again, it's probably a little bit dated, but it does what I got to do. So to get to your answer, yeah, it does depend on the industry. That if you're, so if we look here at book value per share, 1819, let's go back to E&I. Dramatically different in a commodity space because the book value per share there is on oil that's under the ground that they know exists, but they haven't extracted yet. So now the book value, and that's why usually in this like oil space industry, although the companies are very expensive, you've got a very known right? If you bought this company, E&I, dude, the oil's in the ground. You know exactly what's there. If I went out and bought CarMax, I'm getting a bunch of hoopties in lots, right? And some people wearing a blue shirt. So it's right. So that's why the book value per share is a lot less for CarMax. It's not that the industry is. It's not that that's not an exciting stock, but the way that CarMax makes its money is right. If you have to buy a used car, they're a dependable player in the business. They've got good locations and they've got a good process. Here, it's, did you find the right oil spot, right? And do you have enough oil in the ground? So it's a very different, but so you're right. So the industry is going to impact now, because at E&I, as opposed to ConocoPhillips, see, book value per share, 28. So now, so I do own ConocoPhillips. I don't know, the former Federal Reserve Chairwoman owns it too. It's actually her biggest holding. Not that that's the reason why I bought it either, but what you see here is that ConocoPhillips, if we compared it to E&I, the dividend is lower, but it's more sustainable. The book value isn't too dramatically different. That means that it's got just as good of oil and probably a lower risk profile than what E&I is involved in. Obviously making money here. Year over year, you can see, wow, they've been doing some pretty good things here. So year over year gives you at least a 1-year trend line of what's going on here. Cash flow per share. Obviously, you need to know that both your cash flow and your free cash flow is enough to sustain your dividend, but it's also that it's enough to finance innovation and, in this case, very, very expensive exploration and very, very expensive false digs where you don't get what you, where you made you know, tried to make a discovery and it didn't work out for you. I don't know. 5 years ago, sorry, 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I went on a tear on buying railroads. Let's talk about the railroad space. Here's my free advice to you, especially if this is like your first time ever doing this kind of thing. Become an expert in one industry. Like really specialize in one industry. And for me, railroads was from the very beginning the first industry I focused on. So as many of you know, my first job out of college was with the Federal Reserve. And one of my first research tasks were in the, so I was assigned to the 7th district, which is the Chicago district. And what the 7th district was most concerned about was that that's where all the auto part suppliers and manufacturing plants are located. So what they were very concerned about was, on a network basis, what does the railroad network look like? And how is that linked to the manufacturing plants? And what are the choke points in that part supply network to the manufacturing plant? And what impact would it have if, now I got the job in '99, what impact would that have if there was more consolidation in the railroad industry? They cut lines and that reduced part supply transportation time, or increased part supply transportation time to the manufacturing plants, and then in turn affected the economy. So for work, I became an expert in railroads, but then something happened. So I kept it all in the back of my mind. I kept, looking at things and stuff. But then something fundamental happened about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago. He's dead. The guy is dead. But does anyone know the name of the person I'm thinking about here? For Canadian Pacific, with Canadian Pacific, they had a CEO, last name Harrison. I think it was Hunter Harrison, I think was his first name. And he revolutionized the way that, if you don't know how a train works, especially here in Hawaii, basically you get this like 2-mile long train that's got all these different cars on it. But all the different cars are going to all different places. And what the train basically does is it goes, and as it's going along, it's like either dropping off cars. If someone reserved like half of a train, then it's dropping off all of the, right? It's just like pulling up, and usually the plant, the factory or whatever will have like a spur line, like a side line. The train pulls into that spur line, they unclamp it, they take off half of the cars, and then the train just goes along on its merry way. Or for most companies, they don't need that much, so they only buy, let's say, 15 or 20 cars. Well, those 15 or 20 cars are all delivered to basically a big sorting train yard, and in that train yard, the things are basically cargo units, cargo containers, right? The intermodal units that we know here, like the mats and kinds of things. The containers are just loaded on from the train, put on a semi truck, and driven to wherever they got to go. And what Hunter Harrison did was he said, okay, if these pods make it really easy to like now move stuff, unload stuff from trains, we need to be more efficient with the time that the car sits in the yard. So before Hunter Harrison, cars were sitting in the yard for like 4 days, 5 days, waiting for something to unload it and for it to go on its way. And he reduced that time to like something like less than a day. And that now there's very strict delivery times for companies to load their stuff onto the train, because the train's moving, right? And it doesn't have time to be waiting for you to like be shoveling. The one classic example here is, you know, the pasta company Barilla? It's like the Italian company Barilla. They bought this big factory in Iowa because, right, pasta is made from like, I think it's made from wheat, right? So they bought all this like processing factory in Iowa. And it said, okay, we're going to make the pasta here. We're going to load it onto the trains, and then it's going to go out to the rest of the world. But it turns out that they are consistently late on getting their stuff into the train in time because they didn't build enough of an infrastructure. It was smaller than it needed to be to meet the tight time windows that the railroads imposed on it. So now Barilla's being forced to expand their factory to actually meet the tight time windows that they have. As an example, right, think about like Southwest Airlines, right? You have to be on the plane in a very short period of time because they board really, really fast. That's exactly what Hunter Harrison did for the railroads, is load fast onto the train zipping along its way. So it can more efficiently use the train cars that it has, as well as the train itself. Canadian Pacific, I remember buying it 2006, something like that, for 90 something a share, and obviously it's at $2.39. The way that the company grew like that, it's not building new train lines. It has the exact same railroad lines that it's had since the 1800s. But the way that they're able to do it is they can use the same number of locomotives and the same number of train cars, but now deliver more revenue with the same amount of assets. And that's really, in the railroad sector, that's been the fundamental change. Canadian Pacific is just one example. 6 years ago, I bought Union Pacific, UNP. Sorry, it is Union Pacific. Or UP. No. Oh, yeah, UNP. I bought it 5 years ago in the low, what was it? It was about 90 something a share. And obviously it's at 174, and that's over a 4 or 5 year basis, almost doubling. Again, I'm not really tracking against the market, but I'm saying what's interesting about the railroad industry is, okay, so now we already know that the Hunter Harrison method of more effectively deploying your assets, that they're all trying to do that. Even now that the guy is dead, you can't trademark or patent protect, you know, what he did for Canadian Pacific. All you need to do, if you're a railroad, is just find and hire some of those top managers that know how to actually implement it, and then you're good to go. So Hunter Harrison, right before he died, he was at Canadian Pacific, and then right before he died, he went over to CSX, a pretty big railroad on the East Coast. Then he died shortly after getting into CSX. But the thing I'm looking at right now, so now again, I specialize in one industry. There is this tiny, tiny, tiny railroad. Hey, there is this tiny, tiny railroad, Kansas City Southern. But what's cool about this railroad is that they haven't yet done the Hunter Harrison method, and they basically, the network side gets really interesting, looking at what all their what their line looks like. their most effective rail lines all go from Mexico up to the Midwest and up into Canada, which would mean that they benefit from now NAFTA kind of having settled and, trade worries all kind of simmering down a little bit. So again, if this is what you're using to get stuff from Mexico into the US, I guess it would probably explain why, it's looking pretty well. And then if we look down here, again, I don't own this, but I'm thinking of buying it. Right, again, I'm looking at these kinds of things. Book value per share. So again, going back to Levi's question, again, industry specific. Railroads do have a lot of capital assets, right? They have rail lines, they have property rights to those rail lines, they have big rail yards, they have big locomotives. So these are always going to be pretty high book values. You don't typically see buyouts, you typically see mergers because no one's got the money to just go out and even buy this pretty small railroad. This is a pretty small railroad. No one's got the money to just go out and buy it. Another one just this small, I've never bought this one, and good thing I haven't. It's the Genesee in Wyoming. I don't know. Is it GWR? Is it GWR? The Genesee in Wyoming. Yeah. I don't know. If you believe in coal and you don't think coal is dead yet, you can buy this company, Genesee in Wyoming. Doesn't have a lot of rail lines, but they're really good at delivering coal. So if you think that coal is not dead, but compared to Kansas City Southern, you'll notice here, obviously some of you are probably already looking at this. Why are the analysts, the professionals, ranking it lower? Because the thing that they're delivering, no, not as many people want it now that used to. So that's why I think railroads are exciting too, right? Why do people want Kansas City Southern? Because, right, now that the UAW and the GM strike is over and done with, now they can go back to building cars in Mexico and putting them on the train and bringing them up here, or making the parts in Mexico and now bringing them to these plants that they now have a union contract that's committed to it. Union Pacific benefits because it's got a really good east-west network. CSX is really good because it dominates the East Coast. Canadian Pacific is really good for the Canada down to U.S. trade space. Union Pacific is also good too because they own most of the big rail yards on the west coast of the U.S., which would mean you bring it in by boat to the west coast, and then you take it by train to the rest of the mainland. Genesee, Wyoming, yeah, they've got rail lines, but no one wants to think that they specialize in doing, which is bringing coal from where it's dug up to where it's going. And again, I would not buy this. So it's not that I'm buying every railroad, but I do know a lot more about railroads than the typical person. Now, the book value per share, yeah, they've got valuable lines, but why is it that even though it has a similar book value, no one wants it? Again, it all comes down to, well, even things like, yeah, they're holding onto their cash pretty closely. They don't want to get rid of it too much. But I mean, if you just look at the book value, it's similarly valued, but there's not a lot of growth here and there's not a lot of capital going on here because the business is slowly shrinking because their trains are getting shorter because not as many people are delivering coal. And earnings per share, it's not growing as much. So here was, so if we look on a year-over-year basis versus Kansas City Southern. Right, on a basis where's my cash flow coming in, my free cash flow? I mean, look at what Kansas City Southern is doing here. The fact that year over year my free cash flow is growing that much means they've got a lot of cash to now invest in other things, whether it be into my dividends or, more excitedly, what if they start to do a stock buyback? The only thing that's supporting IBM right now, if you want to buy that gem, would be that IBM is really good at buying back its own stock to prop up its share price. That is what they excel at doing, which means that did you close my session? That's all right. Did you, or you don't know if you did?
No, it's still open on mine.
Oh, right there. Session is closed. Exchange regulations forbid using the same username for multiple places.
Oh man.
I'll just log out.
Okay, I'll log back in. Yeah, we had fun while it lasted, huh? Okay. It was fun while it lasted.
I don't know
Um,
why, like, I made two different accounts, so I don't know.
Make a third one. Do you have another email account? Do you have another burner account?
No.
Okay, try doing this. Go onto the TD Ameritrade.
Because I don't have any money in the account.
No, because I have no money in this account. So it's not, I'm in a simulated trading platform because I'm just trying to learn, I'm just trying to show you the platform. Go onto like the website and see if your login works there outside of the platform. Okay.
So you talked about 3 stats so far, right? You didn't talk about 5.
Oh yeah, so I'm sorry, I didn't get to the others here.
Yeah,
Yep, these are the top 5. That's probably why they're the top on here. Cash flow per share and free cash flow per share. I want to make sure, so that's number 4 and number 5. I want to make sure not only am I generating enough cash on a quarterly basis, but also now after everything is paid out, and what is my cash coming from lines of credit, for instance, or free cash flow means I can have fun. As a company, that means, am I excited about future growth opportunities? Do I have money to tide a bad quarter, right? High free cash flow, in this case, again, for Kansas City Southern, there's not a lot of ways you can innovate the railroad industry with like newer railroads. But what it does mean is that they've got the money to buy new locomotives that are more reliable. They've got the money to employ Hunter Harrison techniques that might in the short term reduce my profitability, but in the long term, give me that growth. If I have low free cash flow or low cash flow, I can't do a Hunter Harrison thing if I want to, because I can't have a bad quarter, right? I can do those, I can take some short-term hits for long-term growth if I have enough cash to support it. Based on last week's discussion, you remember that when we were talking about Under Armour, Nike? I finally bought Nike today. I've been thinking about it all week. I've been looking at it all week. If I look at Under Armour here, basically the reason why I ended up not buying into Under Armour was I was concerned about when I looked deeper at the metrics. Yeah, I was kind of excited about like the colleges and universities and all that space, but now I was concerned like how are you going to get to endorse someone if you don't have the money to? Because now it used to be easy, right? You find what 200 colleges and universities, however many we have. That used to be easy, right? Hire 200 account managers, right? And give them money, and you just work every college, and you get, once you sign it, you get all of their athletes. Now, right, I'm going to have to sign each individual player. I mean, you know, like, that's a lot more work, and they don't have the money to support it. Versus, so what I ended up buying was Nike, which allows me still to get some of the athletes, but the key difference here was they have the cash to do it. Now, so this, if you didn't learn very much from me yet today, or even last week, here you would see, oh, $91.27 a share. They make shirts, they make shoes, they make pants, right? Under Armour makes the same thing, and it's a lot cheaper on a per share basis. Again, what I'm saying to you, what I really hope you get out of this class, if nothing, is that the share price really doesn't mean anything. I mean, it doesn't mean that it should not be, I see this and I'm like, oh, that's a good deal. It's only $15 a share, right? That's 1/6 the price of what Nike is. I should totally be buying this. And it's not the case, right? Because, and it's not that this is cheap because of this reason either, right? It's really dependent on how many shares are issued, right? And what's the overall market capitalization of the firm. That's what, and supply and demand conditions. That's what's determining the share price. The share price, right? The fact that Amazon sells for, what is it, $1,700 a share, $1,800 a share, and you might be like, fuck, why would you want to, right? But again, it's all dependent on number of shares issued, supply and demand conditions. a share price doesn't mean anything. Because you gotta look at those 5 statistics to start to paint a richer story of why is Nike worth it, and why are, you see that yellow? Why are the professionals giving it a yellow? Doesn't mean that it's actually bad, because they could be wrong. But who do you think is more likely to be right? You or the professionals, right? I'm not saying that they're never wrong and that you're always wrong. I'm not saying that, but give them a little bit of enough rope to hang themselves here. You know, like, who do you think is more likely to be wrong? You're more likely to be wrong than they are.
So they have it on the Google Chrome. You can log in.
Okay, go back to the app. Are you doing, Lizzie, are you doing yours on the
I've
Chrome
never
app, or are you doing it through an emulator? Or what are you doing?
I can pull up like my actual TD Ameritrade account.
But you can't pull up the Thinkorswim platform?
Well, I think your swim comes up, but it's on my active trading.
Are you on a Mac, or are you on a Windows, or
Windows.
on a Windows?
But the paper money, nothing shows up on there.
What do you have, Lindsay?
I have a Chromebook, which I'm ready to just throw out the window.
Yep.
In case anybody wants a recommendation for that one.
I like my Chromebook because I can lose it and not have to worry about it.
Well, that's the only thing. If my bag gets stolen, I'm more worried about losing the bag.
Yeah.
So that's the deal with Chromebook security.
No, I'm actually not concerned about the security. I've got like nothing on my computer that's exciting. For me, having a Chromebook is because I am always forgetful. I've already lost a Chromebook already, like, you know, and one got spilled on. So this is not my third one. But each time it's like $150. So like, yeah, it hurts. But like, did I really yell at my kid for spilling on it? Not really. I mean,
It's less than $1,000.
it hurts less than 1,000, and I didn't lose anything because it's all in the cloud anyway. But you have like a real computer at home, don't you? Or no?
I have a desktop.
So you might just have to do this.
Can't bring it to school.
Okay, text me when you get to your computer and tell me if it's working on your computer at home.
Sorry, is that the graph of share price? Is it the same the whole time?
I just can't understand why it allows you to log in, but it won't allow me to log
Is
in.
that graph correct? Because
Yes, no, the graph's not correct. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it just loves me more.
it's saying that the share price has increased or
No, something is wrong here.
it's exception of the company.
Let's look at no, and it's not because it's yeah. I mean, so I think the most annoying thing about the Thinkorswim platform on a personal basis is each of the tabs are separate. So in Under Armour, it's a little bit of a unique class too, because there's actually two types of shares. There's a class A and a class B. Or sorry, class A and class C. I don't know. Actually, B is probably owned by the executives, probably. The difference between classes of shares would be if the have voting rights. It used to be back in the day that if you own preferred shares, you have like a little bit of a step up if the company went into bankruptcy. But dude, if it's in bankruptcy, you've lost it all. I mean, don't be buying a class of shares just because you wanted to make your transaction a little safer. Anything you buy as an equity is a bit of a gamble. So if anything is scaring you here, I'm not saying don't buy stock, just spread out the risk over everything and just buy. When I keep saying the spider, I'm talking about like the ETF of all of the shares in the market. So the two most common markets out there are NASDAQ and the NYSE. If none of this is making any sense to you, but you're convinced I need to buy stock just for long-term growth, the easiest total thing you can do is buy the Vanguard Total Return Fund. It's the easiest thing you can do. And it's a Vanguard Total Return Fund. They buy shares of the 500 biggest stocks out there. Dude, out of 1 out of 500 fails, you still got 499 that are doing the work for you. So again, that's why I don't necessarily want to own Facebook or Chewy, the new pet store company online. I don't really have to get into business with those kind of things because that's a lot of work to keep up on things. It's just a lot easier to have my exposure on the total return fund. It means I'm not going to be the guy that comes up there and says, I bought Uber when it was just 2 cars. Does anyone, do any of you watch Shark Tank ever? There used to be this guy, there's this investor who always wears cowboy clothes, but he's not from the South. No, he wants his story, although I think he's, I don't think he's to be trusted. Where's Cowboy? I think he's from the East Coast, I think.
People that wear cowboy clothes from other regions.
Really? How often have you seen someone from New York City wearing a...
I'm not saying city, but the Southwest.
Okay, yes, I would absolutely agree with you.
Midwest.
Iowa, maybe.
Okay. Not Wisconsin.
No.
I'll agree with that.
But also, too, like, if you're not in the profession where you would need to wear it, he's in investments. I don't think I've ever come across...
I don't think anyone from the South is in investments.
when they wear seersuckers? Chris Sacca, that's his name.
Oh, he's a billionaire in this.
Yeah, exactly.
Does that mean he's a
But
billionaire?
the reason why he became a billionaire was he think about Uber when it was just beginning. Like, again, he might say that he knew it, but I just think he just got lucky. Yeah, so see, he always wears like, and he's not from the South, so would you trust him?
I wouldn't really care about.
Really? You don't think that's a sign?
Not the cowboy thing, just his face.
Uber, Twitter, and Instagram. So again, he made the $1 billion because he's not buying the Vanguard Total Return Fund. He is buying things that grew very, very, very well. So if you want to become stupid rich, you can't buy the Vanguard Total Return Fund. You're going to have to find out what the next big thing is, and you're going to have to buy it before it becomes publicly issued, which is what this guy did. Well, Levi's not here, but yeah, obviously Under Armour. Again, the concern too was these big, huge gaps where it fell precipitously. And it's just not, again, Nike, the story here is a bit different. Just a little bit.
So he's claiming that he knew Uber was going to blow up, and you're saying that he just took a chance and got lucky. Is that correct?
In that world, and I know a few people in that space, what I have found is that the people in that space that do very well, they had one good piece of luck, then they've got the notoriety of, oh, he was a early investor in Uber, which is how he then got into Twitter and Instagram. It's not that he identified it, it's that those two companies then said, oh, he early identified it on this, so I'm going to put money into him. He's not highlighting the fact, remember that one we looked at, the one where the girl took the blood and she didn't actually make it the thing? I mean, he probably was an early investor in that too. So it's not that early investors are smart, they're just really well connected. Where did he go to? Let's find out more about this guy.
I would not trust him more based on that than the clothes he's wearing.
I invest them in your face.
Yeah, well.
What does that even mean? Like, how are you? You know what that means, Dr. Shea?
Well, what that means is that, yeah, he's gonna be riding your ass to get you to do IPO, and then as soon as you IPO it, international public offering, he's nowhere to be seen again. He's gonna get in there, build you up to be publicly offered, and then you'll never hear from him again. So meaning, I'm in your face, meaning, do your public offering, do your public offering. He's gonna push your business to grow from small to be big enough, and then he's got out of there, and that's all that he does. Google, Twitter, Uber, Instagram, Twilio. What's Twilio? Okay, but Kickstarter. So yeah, I mean, he's in these companies long enough, gets in there, out of there, done. Lawyer. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, he's, well, they call him the Midas list, right? So like, you know, he gets involved in the company and everyone likes it. And that's right. So if everyone knows in that space, that's the guy to go to as the angel investor. Then if any of you saw too, like the one on Facebook, right, where you saw that movie on Facebook, like Social Network, the company fundamentally changed. Remember when they went to San Francisco and they got those venture capital firms? It changed from a dorm room project to a legitimate company when they got to the angel investors. And that's what Chris Sacca is. He's an angel investor. Angel investor means brings a shit ton of cash and a shit ton of legitimacy to your unknown company and gets you respected. So it's not that Uber would not have succeeded without him, but he amplifies it, gets in your face, and then makes the company, gets the company out there. So let's go back to this. So here's what I want to look at now. So now you have an idea of the 5 statistics I look at. And I'm just looking at for a company. Here's what you're going to be needing to do in our early December meeting, which will come up in like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. You need to, in the next few weeks here, you need to start identifying the stock. That's what you need to start doing. You need to focus on one share, not the stock, not necessarily that you're buying, that you are now going to become, not the expert in, but you're going to know it pretty well. And it could be something that you really want to buy, but it also could be something that you're saying, stay far the hell away from it, which is what financial analysts do. They assess the company, right? So in this case, it's kind of the middle of the road approach. Let's do one where people would say, stay away from it. My favorite stock to hate. Yep. My favorite stock to hate. Okay, so let's look at what I'm seeing. Again, why would I not like it here? Look at the earnings per share. Wow, really growing on a year-over-year basis, but fuck, look how bad it's doing here. Earnings per share, a loss of $24.62 a share. How do you sustain that? The only way you sustain that is with very expensive loans, very expensive capital. Dividends per share, obviously they don't have a pot to piss in. They don't have money to be paying out dividends. Book value per share. Dude, I don't even know why it has a book value. Their website's probably their most valuable thing they have. They don't have any cash flow. So how could they ever invest in new ideas? They don't have any free cash flow. They don't have enough money as it is.
How long do you think?
How long is this coming? Their best bet is someone buys them out. And someone probably will because it's dirt cheap.
But then, why would someone want to buy them? Because based on what you told
the only thing they've got a good website and they've got customers that they already have. But they're all increasingly leaving. So if they don't do it, if they don't sell soon, but they keep thinking that the best day is going to come up tomorrow. Yeah, it is kind of wishful thinking here.
Yeah, especially with like more people doing similar stuff with their
Yeah.
Exactly. So what you're seeing here, just to highlight this here. Okay. So you've probably typically looked at a share price here. So obviously this is the ticker, APRM, right? So it's the 3/4 letter shortened way to find out what the company is. It's being traded on one of the exchanges, NASDAQ or NYSE. It's called an exchange because the exchange is where the price is determined. In this case, $7.24 a share. Now, that share price is actually determined by the spread between the bid and the ask. So you probably haven't seen this as much. So basically, imagine that really what's happening electronically now within the exchange is that you've got a group of people who own the company and want to sell it, and a group of people who want to buy it and have cash. So imagine then in that space that you've got people raising their hands saying, I want to sell Blue Apron for, I want to buy it for, right? And the difference you're seeing here, 710 versus 755, is the spread. There's a spread between the bid and the ask. Now, basically what you're seeing here is the bid is what people are willing to pay. People are willing to pay $7.10 a share. The ask is what people are willing to sell it for. Obviously, they're not the same. For something that has, for a share that has high volume, the spread is going to be narrower than this because there's a lot of volume going on. For something that's more lightly traded, the spread becomes even broader and broader. What would be something that's lightly traded that I would know of? Something where you can't even believe that it actually. No, I do remember looking at it. I think we looked at this before. I actually remember the spread being a little bit broader here. Yeah. So for X-ray, for instance, the spread is a lot wider because it's even more lightly traded than Blue Apron. The only reason why people are trading Blue Apron is because there's enough shadings out there that are shorting it and whatnot. This one's even more lightly traded. Or I'll remember my one for the message board, the stadium. What was that? DAKT, Daktronics. Even for that, right? That's a pretty big spread for that size of that share price. Okay, now, what does that mean for me? What that means for me, what that spread tells me is that, okay, if I wanted to buy it, I don't know when I'm actually going to buy it or when I'm going to sell it, that I'm actually going to get the share price that's identified here of 673.5, right? It's what's going to become important for me is, right, if I know I'm going to be holding on to it for a long time, I really might not care that much about what the spread is. But the spread becomes important if I don't think I'm going to hold on to it for very long. Because what happens is that in a period of low volatility, if all of a sudden it becomes volatile and I need to sell it right away, I'm not going to get as much as I thought, right? I'm going to be out there in the market trying to sell it and saying, yeah, 835, it's all yours. And the people out there are only offering me 646 a share. So the spread, it might become useful for you to know if you're thinking of not holding it for that long, but it becomes more important if you don't think you're going to hold on to it. What is it for CarMax? Ooh, Kellogg's, that's a good one. Let's look at that one, actually. Yeah. Here, you see a bit of a spread here. That's still about 20% of the share price. But what you're seeing here in terms of the overall share price versus the bid ask, you see that people actually wanting to buy this, that the ask is actually, that the share price is actually pretty close to the ask price. Which would mean that you have a little bit of a stronger stock that people actually want to buy, where the actual price that it traded for. Think of that 64.05 as the equilibrium point where the supply met the demand. But the actual price that it met is actually pretty close to the ask, to the buy side. But on the, and again, that's what the ask is, what the sellers, were willing to accept. Meaning, if I went out in the market and you were selling it, and you said, Shining, it's yours for $64.50 a share, that's the ask. So you're asking for, you own it, and you're asking for $64.50 for me to buy it from you. So think of it that way. Think of yourself in the market. If the bid and the ask don't make sense to you, just think of yourself in a market, right? And if I went out there wanting to buy it, I would say, I want to buy Kellogg's, and a whole bunch of people will give to me their bids, right? Of saying, I'll sell it to you for, and me coming in saying, I want to buy it for $56.01, right? And pretty sure saying, dude, I'll give it to you for $64.50. somewhere how we've got to meet here, and it looks like the sellers, the people who own it, have a bit of dominance in this market because the actual share price is actually pretty close to the ask.
What if the share price is lower than the bid ask?
Wouldn't could it ever happen?
I'm looking at Alibaba.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. What's the ticker for that? What? Is that in the pink sheets? Yeah, that doesn't make it. Yeah, sorry. I should have said that. It won't work for this. It won't work for this because this is an ADR, so it's not on the exchanges. The only way you can buy Alibaba, it's depository. What is it? I forget what the ADR stands. I only own. Let me look at a different one here. One that I know. So I own Total, the other oil company, the French one that also are willing to do business everywhere, but it's actually listed on the French exchange, the CAC 40. The only way I'm not out there in the CAC 40 buying things. So the way I own it is that if the French say, dude, there's a lot of capital in France, but there's not enough for people, right? You know, the French, they love their country, right? They've got such pride in French-owned companies. But dude, there's not a lot of money to be had there. So right, if you're a big oil company, you need a lot of money, but for nationalistic reasons, you want your company to be listed on the CAC 40 because you're a French company. The only way you're going to get the capital you want is by going to the Americans. And what you would do is you would create what's called an ADR. I think it's like an automated or something depository. Oh man, this is gonna really bother me. What does ADR stand for? Type it in Google. I'm really curious, lab manager. Depository.
American Depository Receipt.
Dispute resolution. Alternative dispute resolution. What is it called? What is it called?
American Depository Receipt.
Yeah. So basically, in New York, they basically say we hold these French shares, and you're going to be able to basically own these French shares through the New York Exchange. ADR is a little bit different because I actually own Total now. I guess you could say indirectly, because as an American investor, I could open up an account to buy things in the French current, but the expenses of me buying foreign shares, most of the time, unless it's like a really fantastic stock, it makes no sense for me to open up a French trading account to buy Total. And that's what they realize too. So the problem is that Alibaba, a lot of Chinese people own it, but it's very expensive for American investors to buy it. So for Baba, the problem there is you're buying the ADR, but you're also buying something where a lot of companies are not being allowed to own it from a either their investment guidance documents aren't allowing them to own it. And so what you're seeing there, let's go back to Alibaba. You don't own it, do you? Okay. Yeah, it's basically saying here, God, what do you even say? The problem, there's two issues going on here with Alibaba. Yeah, the one is that it's an ADR. The other issue here too is that it looks to be like there's a lot of day trading going on here. So there's a lot more volatility and there's a lot more volume. Should be 12. Yeah. I mean, the volume is by a factor of 12 of what's going on in Total. It's unusual. I guess I was going to say it's not impossible. It's the number of situations where you would see it, though. This is a very, very thin spread, though. Which tells me what, I guess. So in this case, Yeah, I mean, it's statistically very close though, to the, on the sell side. What this all, the 182.80 and the fact that it's marginally smaller than the sell side of it, basically, I mean, look at that. The spread, even though between the share price and the whole thing is 90 cents. There's not in that 90 cents of 182.80, which would mean that it's less than 1/2 of 1%.
So this means it's undervalued, right?
I don't even think I would say that. I mean, I don't know if I'd say it's under, but now you're doing a little bit more fundamental analysis. What this would tell me though, is that there's a lot of volume, and if I wanted to get rid of this quickly or buy it quickly and trade it quickly, I absolutely could. There's such a small spread. I know right away I'll find a
Well, I'll just-
buyer and a seller.
I was just thinking that because
If I want to buy right away, I can find a seller right away. If I want to sell, I can find a buyer right away. That's what this is telling me. When we looked at the other one, like total, again, we might not notice it because it's occurring in fractions of a second still, but there is still a search process. And the share price I get is still a little bit more questionable with like total. I pretty much know what my share price is going to be here because there's not a lot of spread going on. Yeah. Can you find any other? Have you seen any other examples? Or no?
AMD, like the spread from their share price, 38.35 to their ask is 38.60. So that's even.
Okay, yeah. So here, okay, so you're seeing an example where, yeah, it's just, again, there's a lot of, what this would tell me and why I wouldn't buy it is that there's a lot of day trading going on. I don't want to get into business with day traders. I mean, again, I do it a little bit myself too, but it's not my full-time job. So the problem is that Levi comes to my office and says, dude, I'm having a crisis. Come talk to me. And in the 30 minutes that I resolve this crisis, I've now lost like $5,000 because the day traders are just like kicking me in the ass while I'm helping. Right. So if it was my only thing and I didn't have anyone bothering me, but the problem is that day traders, you're holding on to things and you're always looking at, and yeah, I mean, I don't have the time to handle that volatility. Sometimes in the summer and during winter break, I'll do a bit more of it, but I don't have the time to do it.
So a smaller spread usually indicates high in day trading.
Yeah, and you better watch. You have to watch it very, very closely because you could really get burned. Because now,
But the spread is small. The volatility day to day should also be small.
it is, right? But the only way you're going to make money is by buying high volumes. So now I'm losing a little bit on a bunch of shares. And the problem here is that if I'm day trading it, I'm opening a position and closing a position in the same day, in a day, in 2 days. Again, for Nike, the thing I just bought, which I don't plan on selling right away. Right? So now my spread here is about 73 cents basically. Yeah, there's a lot of traders involved here, but the volatility less. And look at that, the volume is 1/2 of what it was for Alibaba. So yeah, there's some day traders here, just like there is for everything, but it's not driving everything. Now here, I'm still willing to get into this space, even though the traders are existing here, because there's just not like a ton of them that are driving things. There's no way that 12 million shares are trading hands for Alibaba, even though it's a really big company. There's no way that 12 million shares are trading hands, and there's not a lot of crazy stuff going on for a company that size. Nike's Fazenda is a lot bigger, and there's only half of the things are going on here. Yeah, I should have looked at that. What did the fundamentals look like for Alibaba? Oof. They're the ones that did that Singles Day, aren't they? Is that Alibaba?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yep.
So what is it? What is Singles Day? So you buying stuff for yourself?
Yes. It's promoted in Korea, Japan, and China, especially in China because they have such a large market. They have so many people.
But what is it like?
Oh, it's
So like, could I do it? I'm not single. I'm
it's
married.
really-
So
in my opinion, it's a commercial. It's a
Well, of
cultural
course it
thing.
is.
It's a cultural thing over there, but it's a commercial gimmick to get people to buy products.
but am I buying it for myself or can
Yes.
I buy it for someone
You're
else?
buying it for yourself because
How greedy is that?
well, here's the thing. For the ones that are the people that are single, they say, hey, you don't need someone to buy it for. You just buy it for yourself. That's the
Dude,
premise.
every day is Singles Day for me. Every day is Singles Day for me. I'll buy some. Why do we need a day to justify? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like I said, it's a cultural thing.
Okay, let's go back to, I'm curious here let's just look at what research team says. Okay, so what you're going to be partly responsible for, going back to what I said here, is you need to find some sort of stock, something that you're either interested in or you think people should stay away from. I don't care what you pick. If you like to be an optimist or pessimist. But in some sense, you can either create something beautiful like this, or you can just make slides like you did. And again, I think it was useful what I created before, so I'll do it again, where I made that YouTube video that kind of guided you through kind of making slides. If you want to do it that way, that's fine. If you want to have a one-pager like this, that's also fine. These are typically one page, sometimes 2 pages. But what you basically see here is I have what the current share price is. I have a recommendation. The recommendation would either be buy, sell, or hold. And the way that you make that recommendation buy, sell, or hold is you're making it on the basis of a future projection of what you think the share price is going to be. That's all it is. And I should say, you could think that the share price is going to go up, but you could still say sell. And you could have the share price go up and it still be hold. You could have the share price going down and it still be buy. Or you could still have it hold. So you shouldn't think that just the direction of the share price is dictating your recommendation, because it has to become a bit richer. So let's just look here at Nike and their hold recommendation. The reason why you might give it a hold recommendation is that it's growing, but it's not growing as fast as the market. It could be that it's growing, but you're taking on more risk to generate that growth. So why do it, right? Or you're really going, or it could be that it's growing, but it could be that competitors are growing better or more strategically than it's growing. So the grass could be greener. Let's see why it's saying what they're saying. Now again, what's that line that people say? I'm never good at these Southern sayings. Remember when I did my Southern sayings things last week and offended probably all of you? See, Michelle, you missed it. You're saying like Southern people in the South have these like sayings of like, oh God, I gotta look at it again now.
Faster than
Yeah, it's like,
that's everybody.
Oh, bro,
Bless her
yeah, it's
heart.
Toby's birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Bless your heart. Do Southerners will say that?
Oh yeah, that's big.
What does that mean?
Isn't it like they say
Well,
that and then they
so
say
it
the
has-
worst things right after?
It has more than one meaning. So if you say something negative about a person, you can follow it up immediately with that. The sort of
Like, Friz is a real asshole, bless his heart.
yeah. Well, now if you call someone an asshole, you probably wouldn't follow it up with bless his heart.
What could you say? So say it in a sense of me.
Or well, I was gonna say also if you're talking about someone that passed away and that was close to you or that you loved,
Oh.
or if someone was sort
So
of
instead of saying God rest his soul, you'd say bless his heart.
I suppose, or if someone hang on, let me think how to word this. If there's someone who was, I had a really good heart, but
Yeah.
he wasn't that smart,
Oh.
that would be a prime time to say bless his heart.
How would you use it in a sentence? Use it in a sentence. Have you ever used it in a sentence or?
Look at our clothes, that's not hard.
If I had my druthers, he's as pretty as a peach, full as a tick.
Yeah,
The creek don't
You have
rise.
explanation for each one.
Yeah, it was hold your horse. Hey, hold your horses. I use that one. Well, not all the time.
okay.
Joe,
That's right.
Just say I don't want exes.
Just say I don't want recipes.
Let's see. Let's look for Louisiana. Oh my heavens! Thank you kindly. Goodness gracious! I do declare. Oh yeah, do declare. Right? Oh my stars!
I used to do that one growing up. It was short and just I declare.
Heavens to Betsy.
Those are all old.
Push your mouth.
Good luck.
Oh look! Now in the texting thing, I can just say DCB, dang city boy. OMG, order more grits. HYH, hold your horses. ITO, in the outhouse. FYI, for all y'all's information. Oh
My
man.
favorite one.
What?
FYI.
For all y'all's. Okay, let's look at let's go.
We're gonna have to create one of these.
Okay, so a typical way that these, so in the industry, and again, I'm not expecting that in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you're going to give me an industry, people train an entire career to create what I'm showing you here. So I'm not expecting you're going to give me something slick like this. You're going to do it over several slides. If you want to go to town and you want to try to create something like this, I mean, you can, because all that you're really doing here, and right, is you can do a Monte Carlo analysis or Google Sheets, throw the share prices in, the ending share price for the past 2 years, make a projection of what the share price is going to be for the next quarter or next year, and then throw a rating on it, throw your chart on here, talk a little bit about the company, bada bing, bada boom. Now, that's a pretty, quick and dirty analysis, which would mean that as soon as I start to ask you any questions, you're not going to know because you're going to say, Google Sheets told me, right? You're doing a purely technical analysis of trends. And you're not even doing a very good job because you might not actually be telling me what the trends are going to be doing here unless you've done it and dated it long enough. It actually looks like here, yeah, you know what I was actually going to say? Does it say who the author is? It doesn't actually.
Should we,
Yeah, and the reason why it's actually terrible, and I actually will agree with that terribleness, would be it looks like they're only doing a technical analysis. So if you want an easy job here, it looks like you could be an expert at Google Sheets and you could create this. Now, you would still actually do well on this assignment, even if you do something like this. Because again, you're trying to learn how to do this kind of thing, or even just, not even that you could do it, but that you could see what someone's done. You don't see any fundamental analysis here.
So if I pick some like Argentinian financial company that's not doing well right now, but I picked them to buy because obviously they're having some political issues.
And you start integrating that all in there, exactly. You start doing all that thing, yeah.
What's going on in Argentina now, Lindsay?
There's a little bit of confusion over who.
Oh yeah, didn't one of the senators say that they were going to be president?
Yeah.
Just like my cat
So
guy,
they
remember?
Voted in by like 46% of the population. His competitor got 32% of the votes, and then the rest went to a third party. But the only people who were conceding that the guy who won are the people who voted for him. So the guy who's still in office won't leave.
Wow.
And then there's the senator who's saying, well, I'll just do it.
Yeah, well, good job. What was your question?
yeah, I'm gonna say, do you want us to like email you what share we're doing?
If you want to, if you're curious, like I could say your task will be easy or your task will be challenging. I could do that. And honestly, with Thinkorswim, you could start looking at these and you can start taking some of their ideas too. So I'm just looking at this one. The street's kind of known. That was that one, the English writer I knew, Ethan Slaughter. He worked for the street. He was an English major in college. But he's taking the analysis of others. But this one's a little bit stronger than the one that we just saw, because what you're seeing here is you're seeing the chart that's giving you an idea of the technical analysis, and then below it, you're starting to see the fundamental analysis that underlines why they reached the buy rating. So, yeah, the rating there was crap. Actually, you know what I'm fine with you doing too? because I think if you go, so again, just so you see how I got to it, you're gonna kind of need to download Thinkorswim. I'm sorry if you don't like it because you're going to have to use it. Again, I got it under Analyze, typed in the ticker symbol, and I got my recommendations right here. I think Research Team does only technical analysis. You could just critique that hell out of that if you want to. And you could make that the basis of your analysis. Same with either the street or CFRA. But I want you to somehow become not an expert, but be pretty well familiar with a company, and that you become pretty well familiar with how to actually arrive at a recommendation. You can't be dumb about this. You can't just like always say, I do whatever the street tells me to do, or I do what Market Edge always tells me to do. But even as Lindsay pointed out, Research Team has a pretty crappy track record. So I'm not sure I would trust what they say. The one that's pretty good, generally speaking, you get what you pay for. That's what I'll say. Morningstar is expensive, but their recommendations are generally pretty good. I think you have to pay like $20 a month, $30 a month for their recommendations. Dude, I just looked at these for free. Right? So that, you know, it's not that they're crap, but I probably don't even have access to the Morningstar one. On Bloomberg, we will. I don't even think it's going to be free of let's see. Again, this would seem odd because you'd be like, you know, I thought only our grandparents and parents used Yahoo, but the finance site, sub-site. Yeah.
Robinhood uses Morningstar.
But you don't get the analysis, do you? Unless you pay for it. I think you have to pay.
It just tells you the buy, hold, or sell rating.
Oh, yeah, that thing. Yeah, but you can't read the report, right?
Yeah, it doesn't even
Because you have to pay for it. Even on Robinhood, I think you have to do that gold thing to do it on Robinhood. Is what? Do they? So under Yahoo, let's say you're looking at Thinkorswim and you're like, that is a fucking hot mess. I don't even want to, I need to get my toes in the water kind of thing. Go to Yahoo Finance and you'll see here, analysis right here. It's a nice way to kind of dip your toes in. You're not doing yourself any favors though by avoiding Thinkorswim or paper money. Okay.
That is free, right?
The paper money is, yeah. And if you give them $500 for an account, you can actually, you can continually have access. Why does CarMax like it so? Why do they like CarMax so much? Well, they're all buying Disney for the shells of the world. Did you get to work?
Yeah, he said it's working.
What do you think? He's watching a princess movie?
No, he's watching Star Wars.
Oh, come on. How many times has he seen it? Which one is he watching?
I don't know. He said they have everything Disney ever.
Even like the racist early things? Like, because they made some, like, I read a story that they made some, like, pretty, like,
Dumbo is pretty bad.
I've never seen that one. What's that one? What's Dumbo?
Dumbo?
The elephant.
The
You know the elephant with the
You
giant
never heard
ears
of
and
Dumbo?
people
The
on
two
it?
kids
Oh.
can fly?
Oh, why would
Never
I?
seen an elephant
Cody, dude, I'm your employer, dude. Yeah, I've been there. I didn't see any elephants there.
Never.
It's a big ass.
There's a Dumbo ride.
Oh,
Is it Dumbo like the first?
Oh, dude, this is the first time I'm seeing this. I have no idea.
It's
Is that one on there?
They have disclaimers for the whole film,
Like, what, you're going to be offended?
saying like,
How can an elephant fly? Come on.
Watch the movie.
how does the cat become a president?
Well, exactly. Well, that one, because his dad died, and his dad was the president. That one I can understand. How does this one become? How does this one fly? That doesn't even look like a smart one. He's got a hat. How often have you seen a elephant wearing a hat? See, this is why I don't want to use my hand. Oh, is Dumbo Asian or African? I don't know. Well, it's a Wikipedia page or a wiki page. Okay, well, how did? Okay, you got me hooked on enough. Why is he wearing a hat? Is that how he flies? How does he fly? Oh, because he's got big ass ears. How is he flying? Well,
He doesn't want to ruin the movie.
you totally should, because I'm not gonna. I guarantee you, I'm not gonna watch it.
Power of belief.
What?
Yeah, but the laws of physics don't suggest.
It's just never believed in himself. It's like you have to believe in something to fly.
Well, it looks kind of sad here.
Wait, that makes him
Years is
that makes
so
him Peter
huge.
Pan.
No, because
Is that the one that always lies all the time? Is that that guy?
That's
Oh.
you're not watching movies.
I don't know. Why would I want? Yes, I do, but they never have asked me to watch these things.
They don't exist.
You don't show him.
Oh.
I did. You know what? My favorite. I don't think it's a Disney movie though. I like that one, where the fox works at the DMV and she's also a cop.
Zootopia.
Yeah,
What?
Zootopia.
Yeah, Zootopia. That is hilarious. That one I have seen half of it.
Half of it.
Yeah, I saw her where she goes into DMV. Remember, she has to ask a sloth, and then she tells him the joke, and then he tells his other friend. Oh my god! I only saw up to that point. I actually don't know what happened. What?
Then you walk outside.
Yeah. Oh god, and that fox looks so cool. The friend guy.
And the sloth gets his feet to different ones fast.
Okay, so what's wrong with the 1941 version?
Crows.
What's wrong with the crows?
They're stereotypes.
Again, I'm totally okay. Okay, I'm not gonna mean to offend anyone because I have no idea. So, is there a trailer of the like? Oh, there's a new one too. Jeez.
Why did they make a live action? That is.
I didn't see the new one yet, though.
Okay, so apparently it's got a wafer thin script.
What?
Well, that person's sentence also says despite of. So I don't really trust
Okay, here. This is what I need. Okay. This is what I need. Okay, let's just see here. I don't care about that stuff. I just need plot. Film takes place in a circus setting, possibly in Mrs. Jumbo's. Is that the name of the big elephant? The mom elephant? A stork? The baby is well received by the others until the sides of his ears are revealed after he sneezes. He's nicknamed Dumbo, is teased by him. Mrs. Jumbo ignores him. However, she's imprisoned as a. Okay, this plot already doesn't make any sense to me now. Wow, that's a pretty big word for this Wikipedia entry. Subliminally convinces the ringmaster in his sleep to set up a pyramid of pachyderms to the top of which Dumbo.
And he gets
Okay, I went to Disneyland. I know I went to Disney World. Was that the ride where it went like up and down?
And you're in
in like a
elephants.
circle.
Yeah, it went in a circle and went up and down.
And you're sitting in elephants, right?
I actually don't know what I was. I knew I was sitting in a thing that went up and down. I remember my kids liked it.
You climbed in something and didn't.
Well, there was another one that was like a mug or something.
The one that doesn't.
Yeah, it was like
Like
some.
Alice in Wonderland.
There was like another one that was like a cup or a mug or a cup or whatever. No, I really seriously, I never watched this as a kid. I did not. My parents did make me watch it. I think it's parents, as a parent of two kids, parents fuck up their kids as much as they were fucked up, and they didn't watch any Disney. I mean, my father was like one of 8, big Catholic family. They don't have time to be like having 8 kids go to the movies, and like my father's, of an age where you didn't have like VCR tapes or DVDs, and by the time you get that, he's not watching them anymore anyway. He just sent me, seriously, it's all due to my parents, and I love my father, but he sent me an email a month ago, about an email, not a text, an email a month ago about how I should see. He just saw on TV Wall-E.
Oh, that makes me kind of sad.
I don't even know what it is, and I'm not gonna watch it. But I'm guessing the E in Wall-E stands for something. Kind of like Pursuit of Happiness, how it's misspelled. Is the Wall-E, the fact that Wall-E is misspelled? No. What happens in it?
It's 2 robots.
Is this all on this Disney platform thing?
I think so. Okay, next movie.
Again, I'm not trying to like. Again, we all have our parents to blame for our weaknesses. My weakness is obviously cartoon movies. I'm not that well versed. Yeah. What's your weakness? What's your hole? What's your hole in knowledge? Do you have an identifiable hole in knowledge?
I'm sure I do.
My parents never let me grow up watching like Family Guy, American Dad.
Oh, I love those shows. So see those, I can tell you about a lot of episodes of Family Guy. Oh, some great ones. Oh, jeez. You don't know much about cars, see?
That would be a whole.
Yeah.
Sure.
Cody, what's your hole of knowledge? Come on. Safe space, okay? Safe space. Could your parents cook? Can or does? So what's your weakness, your hole of knowledge? Lester, what's your hole in knowledge? What's your weakness? Lighting? Oh, writing. I was gonna say lighting, like how to wire lights. Like, I guess that's actually a hole in my knowledge as well. You want to be that specific. Lighting. I'm also not good at putting up, like these walls are not like real walls, like plaster boards or whatever. I'm not good at that. Bricklaying. I'm not good. Well, bricklaying. Actually, my design. I don't know if any of you have noticed the campus when you look at it. I think someone that designed this campus just said, dude, let's just order 1 million square bricks and design everything with square bricks. Because the floor has the bricks, but every building is also the exact same bricks. I think someone just ordered a fuck ton of bricks and just said, dude, you have Legos when you were a kid, figure it out. Like, and yeah, that's what I'm. Okay, the mouse is not working. I think the mouse is mad at my. It's seriously not working anymore. It's seriously not working anymore. Oh, dude, the computer is all frozen. Oh, come on. Just because I looked at something I shouldn't look at, you're gonna punish me for that? Gosh, darn it. Come on. Gosh darn it.
And Southern
Michelle, that's yours. Michelle, what would you blame? Do you think it's my Southern sayings or it's my Dumbo that ruined it for me? As an HR person, what would you critique more that I shouldn't be doing?
Probably the Southern saying.
Really? Isn't that just like, isn't that like me embracing like different cultures that coexist? I mean, how do I celebrate Southern culture without knowing Southern sayings? I'm not saying like, that's not stupid. I didn't say that. Like, it's just like, oh, that's interesting. That's.
Are you from the South?
No, I'm from the North. No. Yeah, I'm from Wisconsin. What? Oh yeah, he made fun. Yeah, you're right. He made fun of the cowboy guy too. Oh man, you're right. I sound like I'm just making fun of the South today. You're right. But see, I don't know. Have you ever worn cowboy clothes?
First grade, I had parents bought cowboy boots for me, and I despised them.
Oh.
So I had not worn them for I think a semester or two in school, and that was it. But yeah, other than that, I'm not that Southern or the Southern.
I'm not kicking out. Oh man. What?
I mean, obviously, I was disappointed. I was beyond nervous. I was nervous before the game started.
No.
But they got a lot of kind of beat themselves. not to take anything away from LSU, but
Oh, no, no,
I mean, well, I
Let's see
don't
if I
know
made
the
it happen.
detail about it in class, but
No, it's really pissed off at me now.
the penalties.
probably just needs to be restarted. What is-
Okay, let's take a break now. We might as well take a break now. Take a break for 5 minutes while I restart this incredibly hot computer. That's probably why it's so upset at me right now.
Probably
So wait, what's the point of? Okay, so what's the point of Dumbledore? So does that become the new, like circus act? Is the fact that the elephant can fly? Because I would go see a flying elephant if there was one out there.
I haven't seen.
See? Why are you so like negative Nancy about being like?
It's kind of like Dumbo has these things that make him different from the other elephants, so they mock him for it, and eventually he overcomes it and becomes his whole selling point.
So he's.
His differences.
Do
make
Disney's
it
do
great.
Disney movies typically have like a lesson, like an Aesop fable?
Sort of, yeah.
So what's the lesson we learned from that movie is
You have big ears, you can
like
fly.
big ear people. Yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna have to re-download Thinkorswim too.
So we have to do it. When's this project?
It's gonna be the last day class. So if you came in late, you get to see me doing it right now. Papermoney.thinkorswim.com. I already created a site. I already created an account. But let's say that you didn't, then you would say, so I just typed in papermoney.thinkorswim.com. Then in my case, the first time I would say no, or if you're Kristen, each time you would say no. I'm going to say I do have an account because I do. Paper Money is a free account for the first 60 days.
If I just make a TD Ameritrade account normally and then go back into your money.
Yeah, so I mean, if you just want $500 to sit in there, yeah, if you got $500 to just sit around, and is that what you're asking? Like having $500 to sit there all the
No,
time?
not $500. I'm saying like I'm thinking of maybe creating my own TD Ameritrade account
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, then you could totally just do what I'm doing. Yeah.
and then just that you just download it. But you don't have to. But you still have to pay $500, right?
You don't have to pay $500. You just have to have an account with $500 in it. So you could just have it sitting in cash.
The security.
Oh,
Yeah, but you actually get to invest it too. So you could invest it, and then your stock could plummet. I think you could still keep it even if your stock plummets.
So it's $900 have to be in your TD Ameritrade.
So you would open it up with cash, then you have an official account, and you would have you'd have the Thinkorswim access after you have your TD Ameritrade account. I do not have a TD Ameritrade account because I haven't given them $500, but I have the Paper Money account because it's a simulated trading account that you can open up for free for 60 days.
Got it. It's create a TD Ameritrade account.
Okay, so we're waiting for this. What's another one I should see? So Dumbo. What was that one where the guy lies in his nose? What's the nose guy? What's the story on? Okay, well I wasn't gonna see it anyway. What's the one with the lying? Is that like a kid? Isn't he made of like wood or something? Why? Because he lied?
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I'm totally fine. I'm not gonna watch it. Really? Why? How do you get eaten by a whale? Oh, okay. What did how does the lying figure into this?
Almost like his crux, right? When they turn him into a puppet. It's just-
Wait, that's how he became a. Was he always a puppet, or was he a boy that became a puppet? He what? He started off as a puppet, became a boy.
The father, his creator wanted a son, and the North Star had.
Now we're getting into some weird therapy issues. So the guy wants his own son. He can't have it, so he makes a puppet. What's the North Star have to do with
The
this?
really bright star happens to also be a fairy. It comes down and
Animates a puppet, then the story is.
I don't know. I don't know why this is. In
How does the lying figure into this? When he becomes a boy, he just lies a lot, and his nose grows.
Yeah,
He's
cursed.
still,
he's still a puppet at that time. Like
He's a boy until the very end.
yeah.
Oh.
So he's a puppet that
Lies. And he
and,
lies.
like, acts and walks and acts like a real person, but he's still a puppet.
Are these dangerous lies or are they like fun
Any
lies?
Whatever magic is used to animate the puppet probably cursed him. And yeah.
That's the trade-off for being real.
That's a Disney one, right? Whoa! Now that's something cool. Now he smoked a cigar. That's kind of cool.
Oh, never mind.
Don't Google that.
What?
Prostitute puppets.
Really? You got a prostitute?
There is a part.
She's like, don't
During
do
the
that.
cigar part.
Yeah, don't Google that.
We're gonna stop there. Though.
Yeah. No. I'll just hear it. I'm not gonna. I won't Google it. What happens? Tell us the R-rated version. We still haven't started yet.
Because the whole point is he sort of learned how to be a person. So there's a part where he learns the dark side of humanity. So that's where the cigar and the drinking comes. One of them is
He's like drinking liquor.
where he's surrounded by people who are.
This is a Disney movie.
They had
Oh.
relaxed ratings back then,
Wow. Okay. So you've got a drinking, smoking
and he was dancing
with
with
a woman of looser morals, fungible morals, relaxed standards.
1940. So Michelle was Pinocchio.
1940
Smoking a cigar, or was he surrounded by people?
No, he
He
smoked
smoked the cigar.
How'd you learn how to smoke?
because he was being influenced by bad people.
So
They
he
just
tried
tried
it.
him. Then he got eaten by a whale.
You get eaten by a whale. How do you end up in the ocean?
'Cause it's a fiction. Oh, that and the island that all the stuff is happening was like it all the I guess bad behaviors was on an island. So on the way as he tried to escape the island or something like that.
Exhausting. This is why I don't watch Disney. All these movies, each one you're telling me about is exhausting. An elephant that's got big ears and I was flying around, and the whole backstory, like it looked like when I was reading that wiki thing, like someone tricked the ringmaster to make a pile of pachyderms or what? I mean, and that's that Wall-E one, right? And my dad says I should I watch it, or because my dad's got pretty simple taste.
All these
You should watch Coco. Coco's really good.
Oh, is that the Day of the Dead one?
Yeah. It's one of the best.
Let's see. What's my favorite cartoon? Oh, dude, I really like right now on PBS Word Girl. That is like the funniest show for kids to watch on PBS. Do you watch like shows on PBS, kids?
When
I was a kid, I used to watch it.
Oh.
I don't watch.
just read like Ray Levels Bell.
Yeah. For Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, I've seen a lot of episodes of Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. Again, I'm waiting for this to load, so I'm not trying to wait.
Pinocchio's like 8 years old.
That kid, and he's smoking and drinking. And you want me to watch this?
Pinocchio the movie is like literally almost 80 years old.
I'm not gonna watch a movie from 80 years ago.
We're just giving you
How much you watch Dumbo?
Is there a new one? Like they made that.
Pinocchio's also almost 8 years old.
Glass, have you watched a lot of these Disney movies, or do you feel knowledgeable about these kinds of movies, or no? Do you watch a lot? Like, are you watching a lot of these, or no, or yes? Lester, do you watch a lot of these? No. Have you seen any of these that we're talking about? So you're just as equally invested as I am in this.
I feel like if you like Zootopia, you probably wouldn't like Wall-E. Or like
Okay.
Madagascar, maybe?
I mean, my father's retired, so he's got nothing to do with this time except watch.
What did you like about Zootopia?
Well, the funny skit about the sloth.
Did you watch Madagascar?
No,
I feel like you would like
I saw the very end of that one where the pig is singing.
Sing?
Yeah, is that what it's called? Yeah, I saw that one. The one where like there was like a little mouse and there was like a big pig. Yeah. I mean, they obviously didn't make those songs, but I knew the songs that they were singing.
No, the guy that plays Elton John.
Oh my god, that was the worst movie I saw on an airplane. I'm just waiting for this to load. That one, the movie about Elton John, Rocket Man. It was the worst movie I've seen in a long time. Like, just sitting there getting into a good scene, then all of a sudden they break into song. Like, come on, like, you just get on with the movie. Like,
Seen Kingsman?
No.
That's a good one.
is that on Disney?
No, no.
There's a second one? I saw Fast and Furious. That I like. Oh, that's the Quentin Tarantino movie? I like Quentin Tarantino. Inglourious Bastards and stuff. Yeah, like, see, I like that. I can. Really? Okay, I'll totally see
How
that.
long is this, just like the download?
Sorry, dude. This part always takes the longest. You missed that part when I said that in class. This part always takes the longest. Did you download it successfully on yours?
Hell no.
Is there a southern saying for what you're about to say?
No, I'm
It's slower than tar burning on a roof of something.
I don't really think in those colloquialisms.
Okay.
I've lived here for 15 years.
Okay. It looks like actually Kristen crashed the site or something.
No,
It's not
no.
working out.
It wasn't her fault because
No, it
just
was.
happened.
It was.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I like tried like how many times just I
So-
even made a second account and I don't know, this doesn't work.
So you're on Wi-Fi. So say yes, then say no. So click yes and then say no.
Well, this I filled out everything already. You still wanted to do that?
Wait, don't go ahead. Wait. What's it say? Okay, so scroll down.
It says we're experiencing time.
So scroll down. Scroll down, and then say, when did you try this earlier? Did you try this?
Here in class, I tried it at home a couple of days ago.
Okay. When class ends, try it on this computer. Let's see if it's a computer-based problem. Because that could be your issue too.
Maybe it's just they don't like starting.
Maybe no, but it also likes Cody, and it likes Lindsay, and it likes Elijah.
Maybe it's just
Maybe it only likes boys and Lindsay and former servicemen. Servicewomen. Oh, it's because I.
Dude, this movie's
I don't know if
insane.
you have one for
Which one?
No, I just read the entire summary.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yes.
No, I watched it when I was younger, but I don't
Like,
remember.
not
See?
No, it's cool.
The stuff
It's
that
pretty
they-
nuts though.
the stuff they get away with in those movies back then is like you wouldn't think.
Okay, so he's watching. Can you text him and find out which Star Wars he's watching? Text him and find out which Star Wars he's watching right now.
It was a human trafficking island.
Oh yeah, let's see what is he watching that? That I want to watch. That I want to see. No, no, but I'd be if I had the time to do it, I would totally watch it.
I haven't seen it, but I haven't seen much. But there's this one episode where the main characters are Commander Cody and Captain
Yeah.
Rex. So it's
That's actually pretty cool.
Wait, are you talking about Clone Wars?
yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's a good episode too.
No, seriously, I know I sound weird when I say this, but seriously, in the entire of the Star Wars movies that have come out, I used to think that New Hope was my favorite. Rogue One is actually my favorite.
Yeah.
I actually think that Rogue One was really strong. And my wife was sitting next to me when I saw it in the theater. She said like I was like shaking out of my seat. I was so nervous at the end. Like it is that good. Rogue One, dude, the only way it gets more exciting is actually living through the Rogue One wars and the Star Wars. Like, oh man.
I just like how they did that movie.
That's a great, but there's
And
no
they
way
didn't-
that it's
and they didn't
bad.
Connect them back to anything else. Everyone exploded, and I'm like, yes.
Exactly.
I don't need you to shoehorn characters into some other movie. Just
Oh, now we've got the accounting issue, auditing issue. Okay, I stopped it. Okay.
Did anyone watch Solo? Was that good?
I saw it.
Now it's the download.
It's all right.
The download stopped.
It screams of we're gonna have 3 more prequels.
Right now?
on, so-
What am I trying to do here? So what I did is I did download it successfully. I already had the account. I signed in. So when you open up Thinkorswim, the icon, it'll start with live trading. You have to manually switch it to paper money, which is the yellow color. Then I would use my username and password to log in. So I've obviously already done that. So the yellow is on the bottom here saying, here's my paper money. So now I would use my ticker symbols to get what I want. If all of this seems confusing to you and you're like, fuck, that's not the purpose of this class, is doing things like this. I want you to be familiar with this, but if you don't like any of this, finance.yahoo.com, consider that like your grandmother's version of this, right? Where it simplifies it a lot. You don't get the sexy kind of stuff here, but if you're not going to do anything like this after this class, you could still do a financial analysis with the data you get from finance.yahoo.com. Even as babyish as it will be, I still will not downgrade you for doing that. Because really at this point, we've got 3 weeks. All I'm trying to achieve here is literacy. That's all that I'm trying to do here. I want you to be literate with what a analysis looks like. So let's go back to analysis. Levi, this is what you'd see when you're looking at this for the first time when you open it up. Now I'm getting my industry, so I could start to explore by industry, like what are reasonable numbers, that kind of thing. So I could say, oh, I'm really interested in consumer discretionary, and I'm really, oh, my mouse is froze. Oh, here we go. And I'm really interested in specialty retail. That sounds exciting. Now I can see all the stores. So now I could start to search, what's Lazy Day Holdings? Limited brand, they're the ones that own Victoria's Secret, Limited, all those things. AutoZone. Let's find the craziest looking, oh, the Buck, right? That's the one that I told you high school students love that stock. Repeatedly.
Which one was it?
The Buckle, BKE. Did you shop at the Buckle ever? No. Okay, let's look at one that none of you would know anything about, but this is one that a lot of people oftentimes talk about as being a possible takeover hold. I should have bought it, but I didn't. I could have bought it when it was 100 a share about 3 years ago, and I didn't. Casey's Holdings, Casey's General Store. Apparently, I'm not kidding you. They actually sell, if it's not the most, close to the most pizzas in the United States. More than Domino's, more than Pizza Huts. It's like Hele here on the islands. So it's like every small little town in the Midwest has a Casey's General Store. So it's like a gas station basically. And just like any gas station, where it's made by sushi and rice products and spam musubis. Pizza is what that is for them. That and sausages. See? Sean making fun of the Midwest here. They're buying their sausages and I don't have a Midwest saying. Knee high by the 4th of July. That's what corn is supposed to be, knee high by the 4th of July. Does that saying exist in the South?
I can't say that I've heard that.
Knee high by the 4th of July. That's how much corn is supposed to grow by. By the 4th of July, it's supposed to be to your knees.
I do have responsibility though.
Oh yeah, what?
Slowly just dump that shit on cold in the morning.
Oh man. Okay, Michelle, is that bad? What we're doing is not HR friendly. Seriously, can we not? Like, how am I supposed to learn about Southern culture if I'm not like talking to someone that loves the South and knows sayings? Like, how am I not supposed to learn? No, but like, okay, but what if we were fellow co-workers and you were our HR professional? Why not?
Just in case. And it could be somebody else that's like listening that's offended.
But if like I'm meeting him for the first time, you'd be like, oh, where are you from? Oh, you like, or I'm not like, I know each other well enough that like, isn't that just called like manners? Like, can't they have manners enough to know him and then find out about the South? This is, I guess, why I'm in the university. Or why I'm offending him and then he can't say anything because we have a power differential. See, it's Michelle's in the room now. No, now I'm being hateful towards HR professionals. Bye. Yeah, you kind of want to, yeah, as bad as it is, the last class in December that we have, and I'll find out what the official date is. You can give me a short one-page thing like this, but in the PowerPoint instructional video I make you about how to do this, you can do it like the same way you did your economic outlook, 4 to 5 slides, walking us through the company, ending with a recommendation, and then expecting some questions from me.
Recommendation of whether to buy the stock or not buy.
Correct. And that recommendation based on what do you think, what the share price is going to grow relative to the market. So here they're saying that this stock is going to grow to $218.95. They think they reached that recommendation that would exceed their prospects for what they think the share price is going to be for the overall market a year from now. Really, you have to be able to do this, you're going to have to engage in one of 3 strategies here. You can do purely a technical analysis, you can do purely a fundamental analysis, or you would do what I think is much richer and stronger, a blending of the 2. Not too dissimilar to what you did for your economic outlooks. Some of you did a straight Google Sheets predicted forecasts of what the numbers would be. Some of you did, I've heard this about the economy, I heard this about the economy, right? You did the current stat and said, I think this, I think this, I think this. And then some of you did, right, like we had the 3 examples or 4 examples of those of you who did the forecasting and then did a slight altering of what the technical analysis was based on what you thought was going to happen, right? So blending a fundamental with the technical. Do what worked for you on the economic outlook. Repeat that strategy again, or alter it if you thought that what you did was not as good as it could have been. Yeah.
All right, so fundamental analysis, this quick refresher, like where we get the fundamentals from?
Yep, so the fundamentals here. So the way to do the fundamental analysis, like if I knew nothing about this company, what I literally would start off with is on finance.yahoo.com, which is how I would usually, if you told me a stock I knew nothing about, that's going to be hard because
The barn company.
I'm not going to, yeah, and I'm probably not going to, whoa, those termites are really going to town on this desk. We've been talking about this, haven't we?
Yeah, it was.
They are really going to town on this. Yeah, and they are really,
That was happening last.
it's like Thanksgiving going on here. Oh yeah, I know nothing about that. Okay, I'll go with that.
Yeah,
What's the ticker for it?
Wow.
It's spot. That's good.
Well, apparently the computer did not like even me mentioning Southerners.
Oh no.
Okay, I give up. I'm not restarting it again. They're eating the computer. Okay. The fundamental analysis, you would start on something like finance.google or finance.yahoo. Type in the thing and start to get, you're basically starting to create a picture of who are their major competitors, what do they think their risks and opportunities are for the future, and then you're looking at their leadership, and you're looking at their buyback strategies, you're looking at what is the breadth of ownership of the company, is it tightly controlled, lots of owners. From a fundamental analysis, what else would I want to know?
Is this all like qualitative stuff?
It's qualitative and it's quantitative. I mean,
Seems
because
like-
things like market capitalization, what does their loan portfolio look like if they had to borrow money? Who are their major customers? You know, if I wanted to do one for Hawaiian Airlines, I'd want to know, okay, what airline, what aircraft manufacturer do they use? Do they own or do they use the planes that they fly? What does their route network look like? What alliances are they using to build their network? What does their leadership look like? How long has their leadership been in place? If I had to judge them based on they are the 7th largest airline, if I had to compare them to the 8th or to the 6th, how would they look? How do they stack up? Yes, they're either a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger, but as one of the companies does it, if we compare Hawaiian to JetBlue, the two integrate pretty well. So let's see, for Spotify. Yeah, I know nothing about it. Yeah, so for Spotify, since I know nothing about it, I would want to know what is their, how are they capitalized? Where did their loans come from? Leadership, opportunities, strategies. Have they engaged in any mergers? Have they bought anyone else out? Are there any rumors? Simply type in Spotify merger rumors into Google, and you'll get some message boards that will start you know, what are people talking about? So the fundamental analysis is, yeah, it's a little bit qualitative, but it's mixed with some quantitative. You're just trying to get a, like, you know, like when you go to the doctor and they always take your weight and your blood pressure. Obviously, they can't say, dude, your blood pressure is so-and-so over so-and-so, you're dying. Right? They're not going to say that, but it's like, they're going to look at it like, oh, you better come back into the back room, right? And like get worried, right? Or it's, oh, good to go, dude. Yeah, you still got to come back, but things are looking pretty good for you, right? So the fundamental analysis is kind of like temperature, weight, blood pressure, right? Then you get into the nitty gritty, right? Then they're like pounding on your back, you know, saying all that kind of stuff. That's getting a bit more deeper into fundamental and a bit more technical, right? Then they take your blood, and that's as technical as you get, right? I guess. Yeah, computer's totally frozen. So what I'm going to do, since it's 7:30 right now, what I'm going to focus on for us for next week, since we spent the time now kind of at least getting you familiar with what this platform looks like, how do I start looking at things? I'm going to focus next week on us looking at a few reports, financial reports, and starting to delve into how did they create that analysis? How do we start to forecast what the share price is going to be in the near term future? Again, all I'm trying to get here is literacy. That's all I'm trying to do here. So that if someone said to you, not that you could do it, that you could create analysis, but if someone said to you something like, what is book value? You might have a little bit of a sense now, especially after this class of, yeah, a company has assets that they could dispose of if they had to go out of business tomorrow. The book value would be, what's the value of those assets that they would have to offload if they went out of business or if someone had to go and buy them out. For a railroad with heavy assets, the book value should be higher than probably Spotify. What's Spotify's book value? Exactly. 20% of what a railroad would have. That's even per share. We'd have to actually look at how many shares are issued for each and, you know, go deeper and deeper, market capitalization, that kind of thing. So we have a level of literacy right now where we're now going to go deeper into specific stocks. But I seriously think the biggest thing you could do for homework right now is start playing around, try to identify a few shares or the share that you want to focus on so that when I'm starting to talk about things next week, you can kind of be following along on your computer or whatever. And as I'm going over things, you could be kind of creating on your legal pad or whatever, kind of a side analysis of when I got to do it. This is how I have to mimic things for when I'm going to do it. Because at this point, really with literacy, mimicry is the best way to start to do this, right? Until you're confident enough to actually create something on your own. Which is kind of what we would then do for the CFA Research Challenge, which once we know what the stock is, we'll start focusing on that. Okay, so until then, sign up for Econ 396. I can't even show it to you. Econ 396 WI Tuesdays or on Thursdays. Sorry, that's on Thursdays. On Tuesdays, International Trade and Finance on Tuesdays in the evening. In the meantime, don't see Dumbo and don't make fun of yourself. Okay, go off into the world, my friends.
Oh, wait. Is it
It's what?
We are we able to register for 3-9? Which one's that? 9 o'clock?